It's the way she lives her life, and it's the way she encourages all of us to live. She's the founder and CEO of Big Fish Marketing and a brand strategist for a huge list of national clients, including the Discovery Channel, Food Network, and Lifetime Television. She's also a popular keynote speaker and the author of books such as The Fearless Fish Out of Water and The No Fear Career. So please, help me put your hands together and welcome Robin Fisher Roffer.
Wow. Is this a room of gorgeous gals or what? I have to make a confession. I haven't always been fearless. For most of my life, I was scared to death of not being liked or loved. So I wore this mask. I call her Dancing Bear. She looked like this. Hey! You want me to do your project, to work on your business? Just keep piling on. I never say no, no matter how much is on my plate. You see, I thought if I performed perfectly, then and only then would I be valued. So I put on the facade of the people pleaser. A lot of us wear masks, right? The mask of the martyr, or the judge, or the know-it-all, or the tough cookie. Do any of these sound familiar? My facade had to come off because it was exhausting to dance my way through life trying to be loved. It ended abruptly and in a very shocking way in a meeting with the president of a major financial company. There I was, being asked to create an ad campaign, and in Don Draper style, like on Mad Men, I created 3 campaigns. Campaign number 1, I showed my client on boards, on easels. Campaign number 2, and then danced over to present campaign number 3. Then I stood quietly and I asked my client, Peter, which one do you like the best? Which campaign would you like to go with? He got so mad. His face turned red. He rose from his desk and he pounded his fist and he said, I pay you a lot of money to build this brand. Stop trying to please me and you tell me which campaign to run. Well, that was unbelievably unexpected, and I realized that that dancing bear mask had to come off, but how was I going to peel it off? I only knew one way to operate, and that was to be the people pleaser, the one that was less than, the one that would be piled on and overwhelmed and had no idea how to say no. So I started something called self-talk, and we've heard a lot about that today. I started to tell myself that I was the expert on building brands, that I was an authority, that I was so much more than a copywriter or an account executive. And I went into the meeting with that kind of feeling, and that dancing bear mask over time, it did not take overnight, started to peel off. And as it peeled off, something happened. The real me emerged. And it took time. I didn't like her right away. I wasn't sure if she would be liked. But as I peeled it off, I started to feel my own inner power. And the connections that I made with other women, with my clients, with my friends, and with my family deepened. Because for the first time, they could see the real me. It was a powerful moment. So I want you to think about the masks that you might wear. What masks may you put on to protect yourself, to feel safe? And all of you have your dream journals right in front of you, because we're going to do a little work together so you can start to take some notes. What mask do I wear? What do I maybe need to peel off? Because that's really the beginning of living fearlessly. So what is fearless? Well, I don't think it's about, jumping out of an airplane or crossing the border into North Korea or even scaling a mountain like this woman. I can't do any of those things, can you? No. I think that fearlessness, the way I live a fearless life, is on a whole nother level. For example, I grew up in this humble apartment in Cleveland, Ohio. Do we have any Ohioans here? I've met so many. Oh my gosh, yeah. So I grew up in this apartment in Cleveland, Ohio. And I left my Midwestern roots to go here, the University of Alabama. Roll Tide. Now, from leaving Ohio to go to Alabama, that was a bit fearless, right? Everybody else was going to Ohio State and Indiana. I'm like, I'm going to Alabama. You might want to ask why. Well, it was actually cheaper to go to the University of Alabama than Ohio State. Can you believe it back then? And my father loved the football team and Coach Bear Bryant, so I had to. Next thing I know, I land in Alabama, and it's rush, right? I'm in a rush of sorority. My dad was a frat boy. He said, baby, you got to be in a sorority. So I stand outside in a dress and stockings like all the other girls and a full face of makeup at 110 degrees in the shade, right? And I'm standing in front of the Kappa Kappa Gamma house. Any Kappa Gamma Gammas in the room? So I'm standing in front of the Kappa Gamma house, and all of a sudden the doors open, and this sparkling Kappa in a baby blue dress comes and grabs my arm. And she looks at my name tag and she says, well, hello, Robin. I'm Kate. And then she looks underneath my name tag, my name, and she sees Cleveland. She says, well, Cleveland, that's a long way from home. Is it Cleveland, Tennessee, or Cleveland, Mississippi? I said, Ohio, almost apologizing. She said, well, a Yankee no less. Hey, girls, come meet the Yankee. I swear to God, I did not know I was a Yankee till that very moment. I really didn't. I loved the University of Alabama, and after those 4 years of college, I ended up working for Ted Turner in Atlanta at Turner Broadcasting. I was on the team that helped launch TNT, and then after that, I helped turn CNN into the world's news leader. It was a very exciting time, except for one thing. I had made a bet with my father that by the time I turned 30, I'd have my own ad agency. So when I turned 30 years old, I went to the folks at Turner and I told them that I was going to resign. And just like you, I started my company out of my apartment in Atlanta because I was tired of living someone else's dream and I wanted to live my own. Does this sound familiar? Yeah, so I struck out on my own. I cashed in all the stock I had earned at Turner over the 4 years I was there, and I took them as a client, my first client. And then I took that company after a few years. It started to grow, and I moved to Los Angeles, where more of my clients were in the entertainment industry. Los Angeles was very different from Atlanta, and it was very exciting to be there. And during that time, we rode Big Fish, my company, the internet wave, and I turned my firm into a multi-million-dollar business, and we worked on projects like Desperate Housewives and Lost and Project Runway and Top Model, and we were the go-to agency. I was buying media. It was very exciting, except for one thing. I was on crushing deadlines, and they were crushing my soul. So I decided to dissolve that online division of my company and take my daughter and my husband and move them here to Santa Fe, New Mexico. So that's my dream home in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And that's a far cry from the apartment building that I grew up in with my father and my sister. And I love Santa Fe, New Mexico, and it's been a great ride. But getting there was hard because when you make courageous moves, when you chuck something that's actually working for something that you really need, you will bump up against fear. And boy, did that happen to me. As we were leaving Los Angeles, our moving truck got stolen from right in front of the house. All my shoes, ladies. My handbags. All the things I really didn't need. Only things I wanted, right? And then guess what happened? I get to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I'm immediately rushed to the hospital for an emergency appendectomy. Those back-to-back events made me feel so vulnerable and made me feel so scared. What had I done? It made me question everything. But then I got quiet with myself and I thought, I can run back to LA. I can get back on that hamster wheel. I can continue to just crank out ads and get people to watch more TV. Or I can live here and I can build brands and I can help women reach their highest potential and I can write books and speeches and I can grow. This one or this one? I chose Santa Fe. And it was harder as I bumped up against that fear. It was a test. And they say Santa Fe either sucks you in or spits you out. And then there were many moments where I wondered which side I was on that equation, but now I know. It was a test to live somewhere that my heart sang, and I had to earn it. Okay, so Santa Fe, that story, and all the stories I just told you are a reframe of events that happened in my life. I have never played it safe. As a matter of fact, when I was 5 years old, I watched my mother's house burn to the ground. And before it did, my mother came in and rescued me, and I rescued this little Sony portable TV. I did. I didn't have a doll to lavish my love on. I had a Sony portable TV. Because in the chaos of my life between going back and forth between my mother and father's house, they had split, that little Sony portable TV kept me safe. It made me laugh. It made me feel good about myself. And in that split-second decision of grabbing that television, I grabbed my destiny, my passion, what would become my life's work, to be in television and to have Sony as one of my most cherished clients. No kidding. At 5. Now, I could have told that story to you as if it was just a horrific event, which it was. But I prefer to tell the story as that fire being my saving grace. You want to know why? Because that fire was a spark that ignited my father's journey to gain sole custody of my sister and me and take us out of a dangerous life. And when my father won custody, he moved us to Cleveland, Ohio. That's how I got there. And here's my dad, Bob. And there I am rocking the white belt with the raspberry getup. And my sister, who's my business partner and created this presentation that you're seeing on screen, is the one all done up in those 70s stripes. God love her. She looks like a sidekick in the Monkees. She kind of looks like Davy Jones in this. Oh, good, you're laughing. That means somebody's my age. Anyway, this is my dad, Bob. And what's so cool about Bob, not only did he raise 2 little girls all by himself, but he raised us to be ad men. Yes, our father was a bona fide ad man, and he would sell newspaper space for the Cleveland Press. But then later on, and when we saw him the most happy, was when he had a boutique ad agency. I use those words lovingly. He had like a shop out of our kitchen where he prepared ads, you know, and at night, my sister and I, by the way, were latchkey kids when you see this picture here. And so every day we would come home after school and we would do our homework by ourselves and put dinner on the table, and then Bob would walk in through the door, "Hey kids, I'm home." We would eat dinner together, and then we would clear the kitchen table and we would lay out ads, and we would help Dad think of headlines. So at 12, I was writing copy, right? So I was born to do this. It's in my DNA. So Dad taught us 3 things early on. The first thing was to over-deliver. Now, who here over-delivers every day at 31 Gifts? That is it, over-delivering. The second thing he taught us, which words to live by, when you're selling, do it with wild enthusiasm. Slather yourself with enthusiasm when you're selling. And then the third thing that he taught us was to never let being a female stand in the way of where you wanted to go in business. Go, Bob, go. So my father taught us some great things early on. He taught us to move out of faith and into fear, out of fear, and oh my goodness. Switch and rewind. He taught us to move out of fear and into faith. And I think that is so important because, you know, our lives are defined by all the events that happen. And they're as big as a house fire, and they're as small as a latchkey. Those are the things that go into forming who we are and what's important to us, right? It's the big things and it's the little things. But it's how we tell our stories that really matters. And moving out of fear and into faith is an amazing idea, because think about it. When you're in fear, there's absolutely no way you can be in faith. Am I right? Now, when you're in faith of your products, of your abilities, of your team, of what you can do, there is absolutely no way you can be in fear, right? Think about it. There's just no in between. So moving out of fear and into faith, I've said definitely peeling off whatever facade is there and showing up as the real you, and also the way we carry our stories. You know, stories are what we pass on. And the stories we tell are what others will believe. So it's so important that you think right now about the stories that you're telling, but more important, how you're carrying them with you. So you've heard some of my stories, and I could tell you that they were all scary events, but I instead prefer to reframe them and give them inspiration, because that's the fuel that moves me into grace and forgiveness for everything that's ever happened. And I've only touched on a few, and boy, let me tell you something, I got a lot more stories coming. So moving out of fear and into faith is one of the big themes that have run my life. I'm going to give you 5 steps today to live fearlessly. But before I do, I want to share with you really how to uncover your courageous heart and feel that lion-like nature that lives in you. You see the artichoke here? Now, I grew up in my early years and lived for a lot of my, well, let's just call them my older years, in Los Angeles, and we ate a lot of artichokes. Is anybody else an artichoke lover here? Can I see? Yeah, I know, they're so good. And the thing about them is, you have to peel them leaf by leaf by leaf by leaf. It's a process. It's fun, right? And you're peeling and peeling it. And what do you get to when you peel all those leaves off? The heart, right? But what is standing in the way of the heart? That fuzzy stuff. What do you call that? The thistle, the choke? What is that? I don't know, but you don't want it. What do? You take the spoon and you scrape it out, right? So to get to the heart, you got to go through some prickly stuff. You have to peel away the layers. We talked about my layer was Dancing Bear. That worked for a while. I got a lot of business being Dancing Bear, but then I hit the wall and I realized I had to now step into my power. But it was uncomfortable to do that, and that was the fuzzy part. But once I scooped out that stuff, and it took time and it was a process, I got to the heart. And that's what I want you to do. Tonight is the beginning to uncover that courageous heart that lies within you. And we're going to do it in 5 steps. The first is own your truth. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Make your own luck. Evolve to reach your potential. Celebrate what's different about you. And finally, quiet that inner judge, that tape that runs that tells us that we're not enough. So what do I mean by owning your truth? It's not enough to say, I'm blessed. It's wonderful to do that, but by owning your truth, by owning your stories and accepting yourself without apology, that's where the real juice is. So to own your truth, you need to take a look at the big stories in your life, the one where you had to face adversity and how you pushed through to get to the other side. Think about that story right now, what that could be. Because you are a superhero, and if I put all my stories together, I think of them as part of my heroic quest. And that's what superheroes do. They're on a heroic quest, right? And when I turn my stories and I reframe them into something positive, I remind myself of the Wonder Woman that I really am. And so I want you to think of a story now. You could write down something that you're going to work with over the next few days that could become your story. I loved Bobby's story. Do you remember when Bobby was up here? Wasn't she amazing? Talking about how she overcame the adversity and how she moved forward to be a success here at 31 Gifts. That's the kind of story that I'm talking about. It could be something from when you were a kid. It could be something from just last week. I put the story about my father teaching me the advertising business right on my LinkedIn profile. If you guys want to check it out, you can after tonight, because I think it's really interesting to see how to weave that story into a bio. And what it does is it creates connection with the people that you're doing business with, but most importantly, it differentiates you from everyone. It distinguishes you, and it becomes part of your personal mythology. So it's not enough just to tell your story. It's about owning your truth without apology. So the superhero, my daughter and I, by the way, we see all the superhero movies. We absolutely are knocked out crazy about anything that has to do with superheroes. And we love them because in the face of adversity, and it's usually through tough circumstances or misunderstanding or misrepresentation, some kind of face of adversity, they triumph, and then they see where their superpower really lies. It's all about seeing your past as a gift, and that's what I mean by owning your truth. For so long, I hid all my secrets. I locked them away in a box, in a forbidden place, and I told no one what was going on in my life. But you at 31 Gifts, I bet you could write down 31 gifts that have happened in your life, and a lot of them may come from the scariest moments in your life when you got through it to the other side. So that's something to take a note in your dream journal, to write down, what are the 31 gifts that are in my life? Your children, all the abundance you have, everything that you're grateful for. And think about the origins they came from. That might be another path to seeing your past as a gift and finding that signature story that creates an unbreakable connection with everyone that you work with. The second step is to make your own luck. So making your own luck has a lot to do with creating a plan for action. And the way I did it, I was really, really looking down the rabbit hole about 2 years ago, and I was so tempted to tumble in. I had just ended my 17-year marriage. I was 50 years old, and I was raising my daughter all by myself, just like my father had raised me. And I was scared, out of my mind. How was I going to run my business? How was I going to run my life? It was just unbelievably difficult to imagine. So I went to my coach and I asked her what to do. And she said, Robin, I want you to write a list of everything you need in your life. Need? I don't need anything. I can do this all myself. That's where my head really went. To need anything seemed like a painful ask. Oh, I was great at wanting things. Like, I wanted a new pair of shoes. I talk about shoes a lot, don't I? I wanted a new pair of shoes. I want a dress. I want that project. I want to work with that person. I just want to be wanted. My wants were primal and fleeting. What I needed to do, my coach said, was focus on what I need now as a mature woman. So I made this list of needs. Do you want to hear what some of the things that were on my list? What I need? Okay, so the first thing that I put on my list, there are 4. I'm going to tell you 2. The first thing I put on my list was this. I need a life partner who understands that I have a daughter and she comes first. Yeah, you can clap for that. My second need was that I needed projects and clients that were going to help me to grow as a professional and a whole person. Do you notice that I didn't put how much money I needed or, anything? I didn't talk about anything regarding revenues or those types of goals because those things would come along with the needs. I knew that after I started to make the list. But then I thought, wait a minute. If I make a list of all my needs and I get all my needs met, will I get what I want? So I made a list of everything that I want. Now that list was easier to make, right? Because that was like tickets to great events and travel and, sophisticated friends and beautiful clothes. I mean, we can all make that list. That's pretty easy, right? That's an easy list to make. So that's why I'm going to ask you to do something right now in your dream journal. I want you to write down 2 things that you absolutely need. I know it's hard to ask for what you need, but just in this moment, what comes to you? What do you really need to feel whole and complete? What do you need to feel whole and complete? Now, just for fun, write 2 wants, just for fun. 2 things that you just want. 2 things you need that'll make you whole and complete, and 2 things that you want. Now, after I made my list of everything I need and everything I want, the needs started to be met. And guess what happened? The wants came along as a bonus. Isn't that a beautiful thing? That's the way it worked for me. That was my experience. I hope it's yours. I have a lot of friends that get everything they want. They have the big house, the beautiful car, the great guy, the kids in the right school, but they have a gaping hole, and the wants just, the more they get, the more they want. It's just not enough because their needs aren't being met, and they don't think they need anything, but we all do. So making your own luck starts here, and I'm really excited that you wrote down some things that you need because you just set a powerful intention. Now, I'm sure you've heard of the law of attraction. Everything that you're seeking is seeking you. What I've just talked to you about and what I'm going to share with you goes way beyond the secret because it's about getting into action. It's believing in yourself, absolutely. It's setting the intention. It's sharing what you need and using that as a filter. But it's also about getting into action. So setting a powerful intention, I have a few things that I want to share with you to really get it right and to attract what you want and what you need. First, it's about writing a vision statement. So a vision statement is where you want to go and how you want to show up and who you want to be in the world. So my vision statement, and by the way, I like them in 7 words or less, crisply articulated, and you can share them in a minute with anybody. So the vision statement for my career is to be the most sought after authority on fearless branding and storytelling. Thank you. You're letting me achieve my vision right now. I'm in it. I'm in my vision. Thank you. So writing that vision over the next few days while you're here, if you could take a moment and just write your vision for your career, where you want to go. So many of you worked on why you're here, but where do you want to go? And I just use my hands like this because I want to demonstrate. Here's where you are, and here's where your vision is. So what do you guys think that you need in order to fill that gap? You got it, a plan of action. What am I going to do to get from here to here? It could be that you're going to start a blog, or you're going to do video blogging, or you're going to be using social media in exciting ways, or you're going to be getting into the community and networking and showing up at fundraisers and really getting to know people who can be your best customers. And you're going to build a community, as Debbie talked about. So making a plan of action to get to that vision. But who can do it alone? Cindy and I talked last night, and I asked her what fearlessness meant to her and fearless living, and she said it was not being inside of myself, but by surrounding myself with people that could support my vision. And I think that's just right on. And I love, Debbie gave you a lot of exciting ways today to assemble a team to support your vision. And I bet you're sitting, we'll be standing in a minute, but I bet you're sitting with women shoulder to shoulder that can be on that team, that can help you to support your vision. Like-minded women that you could have a mastermind group with maybe once a week where you could share ideas. This is the place to do it, to find those people and to create those connections. And then staying open. I love this woman, her open arms. And when you are invited to speak on a panel or show up at an event or go to a dinner party, you're saying yes to opportunity as long as it's in line with that vision. That's when yes is a great word. It has to be on the path to where you want to go. So staying open to opportunity is key. Now, before I knew these principles of setting a powerful intention and making an action plan and bringing my team together, I would play victim and martyr when things went wrong in my life. I wasn't in consciousness about how I could operate in my highest self. And I would defend everything. And now I'm open. I feel so good that way. It's the way to live whole and complete. And when those negative voices get in my head, I just let it go to God. And then I start to tell myself a new story. Here's some of the words I use. I am power. I am possibility. I am enthusiasm. And I am sparkle. And when I say that word sparkle, darn it, I really feel good. And I am watching a whole lot of sparkle going on in front of me. Gosh, look at you guys, you're like glittering. It's beautiful. I feel like I'm a fairy. It's awesome. So anyway, step 3, we have 5 steps. Step 3 is to evolve to reach your potential. So here's what I've discovered in my life. I have reinvented myself so many times Big Fish Marketing started out as a promotions agency. I was once called the sweepstakes queen of cable. I didn't like that brand. I liked being called the queen, however. That part was good. And then we turned the agency into this digital marketing firm I told you about. And then we became brand strategists for the digital age. And now we reinvent brands and reignite professionals. So we're always evolving to stay in tune with the times. And I've personally evolved from being somebody who was stuck on deadlines, writing headlines, pitching and closing business, running a big agency, to somebody who's standing here in front of you. And you know, back to my story, I don't think if I would have been in that fire or had my father raised me, I just know I wouldn't be with you today. There's no way. It was all part of my journey, and it gave me the courage to evolve. If we don't evolve, which isn't our nature, by the way, we can get really stuck and suffer career extinction. So it's so important to evolve to reach your potential. And when you're making those bold moves, you can use the 3 A's. I love this idea. And you guys got your dream journals ready? Because I'm going to ask you to do a little 3 A's exercise. The first one is accept. What do you need to accept in this moment, right now, that you cannot change, that you can't control, that you can't cure, that you can't fix? Write down something right now you're going to own that you absolutely need to accept that's happening in your life. The next step when you're making a bold move is to adjust to it. It's about living life on life's terms. So you've accepted something that's real. Now, how are you going to adjust to it? Because it's not going to change. It's fixed. And then accessing your higher power and being in your highest self and knowing and having the belief that you can work through this. See, I think change is an ally. I see change as a friend. I lean into it and face the uncertainty with these 3 A's. And time after time after time, they've worked to get me in the next place, to get me out of tempted to tumble into that rabbit hole. I had to accept that my company in Los Angeles wasn't viable the way it was going. I had to adjust to it and make a bold move, and I felt moved to Santa Fe where it was healthier and a better place to raise my daughter. And then I had to access my higher power every day to remind me that this was the right move, that I was here. And I also accessed all my girlfriends. Every single day in Santa Fe when I'm home, I hike. I have a 1-hour hike outside that house, and I take a girlfriend with me, and we call it hiking it out. You know, whatever we're going through, we hike it out together, and it's just a great way to access that highest self and bolster how you feel to start your day in a beautiful way. It's really all about changing the internal dialogue. I gave you some of my words that I use to make myself happy and to take me to that higher place. Think of some words that you can say about yourself. We're going to do an exercise at the end where you're going to find them. But changing the internal dialogue is key. And when you start doubting yourself, quickly catch yourself and get into that great space. So I got to tell you, a lot of what we need to do when we're evolving is change perception about ourselves or heighten, bust a myth that might be happening around us. And I believe if you don't stand up, you don't stand a chance. So case in point, when I was pregnant with Roxy, my little girl, 14 years ago, my competitor told every one of my clients that I would be shutting down Big Fish after I gave birth. Yeah, he really wanted my business, and he wanted to sabotage my career. So I went and got on a plane and went to the National Cable Television Association's annual show, And I walked the floor 7 months pregnant with my portfolio in my hand, telling every single client I had that I would be there before, during, and after my pregnancy. And without speaking my competitor's name, just knowing that he was spreading these rumors, I won 6 pieces of business, and we've been running for 22 years, Big Fish. And I think it's because I've never shrunk like a violet when when somebody was coming after me like that. And believe me, it can be tough competition. So stand up for yourself. It's so important. And while you're doing that, by the way, it's so easy to just react to whatever's happening. You know, you get an email and you just want to react, right? But I say, work on responding, not reacting. You know, fear asks us to act too fast. And sleeping on it. You know, you've heard that before. Just sleep on it. Yeah, just sleep on it. You don't need to react. Take time. Listen to your gut. Feel into it. Don't go off half-cocked. Whatever is happening in your life, you know, just respond. So let's say that does anybody have a teenager like I do with the mouth sometimes? Okay, so, you know, you want to react, like, that wasn't polite, or you shouldn't, you know, you want to just jump on them when they say, you know, I was telling some of the girls here that my daughter's constantly telling me not to sing. Does anybody have this? You're not allowed to sing anymore. So embarrassing, Mom. It's like, I'm the only one in the car with you. Well, who's going to see me singing? I can hear you singing. It's so embarrassing. I mean, I just want to react, right? I just want to go for it. But the best thing I can do is, because if I react, what's she going to do? Keep going after me, right? You guys know this. So sometimes the best thing to do is nothing, especially when you don't know what to do. Do nothing. So that's what I do with my teenager, and we have a fabulous relationship because I actually don't jump on everything she says, which would cause her to say more. So work on responding, not reacting. Take time. But man, isn't it easy to react when you feel like you're being judged? Yeah. When you feel like you're the only one like you, when you feel like you're just so different and nobody gets me. That's how I've lived a lot of my life because I really think differently than most people. So I wrote this book called The Fearless Fish Out of Water because I always felt like I was outside the circle. And boy, that day when Kate introduced me as the Yankee and get all the girls around, I mean, I couldn't have felt more like a fish out of water. Now I just love that story because I survived that too. So if you ever feel like a fish out of water because, you know, you're different, maybe you're from a different country or a different culture or you were raised differently or you're a different color or you just think different like me or you're just boldly unconventional or you're a nonconformist. If you have those fish out of water moments, it's really important to do the opposite, not conform, but shine a light on what's different about you, because you want to love all of you. I mean, look at Barbara Walters. She never could pronounce the letter R, right? Or what about Guy from Food Network? Did you ever see a chef before him have tattoos and spiky white hair? He's a household name. So having fish out of water qualities could be actually your vein of gold. That's at least how I feel. But I wanted to test this theory. So I interviewed dozens of executives who succeeded because they were different, not just in spite of their difference. And here's what they told me. Baby, you were born this way, like Lady Gaga says, right? So why hide it? Why hide it? So what they told me and what they shared with me is that by celebrating what's different about you, it really attracts people to you because who doesn't love somebody that's comfortable in their own skin, right? It's so important and also for our kids too, to own and love who we are completely. So accepting yourself without apology. How many times a day as women do we say, I'm sorry? You know that I bumped into a table yesterday and apologized to it? It's crazy. I think that we say, I'm sorry, to make up for the lack of our husbands and our sons saying, I'm sorry. We say, I'm sorry for them. We apologize for everyone and everything, especially ourselves. So it'd be really interesting over the next 24 hours to kind of catch yourself when you say, I'm sorry, and sort of laugh with each other about it. But accepting yourself without apology is key. And so write down right now for me in your dream journal, for you, I shouldn't say for me, hey, it's not about me, it's about you. Write down in your dream journal what makes you positively different. What makes you positively different? What makes you stand out? What do you think is one quality that attracts people to you? Or something that maybe you've been hiding that maybe needs to come to the surface so that you can climb into that skin of yours and feel cozy and comfortable and great about yourself. What's that thing? What's that very thing that's distinctive? What do people really comment on about you? What I love about you is you're so funny. You have such a great sense of humor. What I love about you is you always think differently about things. Or what I love about you is that you always seem to find the positive way to frame it. Whatever it is, what makes you distinctively different and positively stand out? And then during this conference, and I'm sure at home in your community, and I really want to reinforce a lot of the things that the wonderful speakers have said here today, try to find like-minded people like you that will help you and cheerlead you on and celebrate those differences with you, and who accept you for who you are. Think about who could those people be that are going to be your cheerleaders when you get back home, and I hope it's a lot of the connections you've made here. And then finally, how to really evolve and really set yourself apart and celebrate yourself. Okay, clothes. Can we talk, ladies, for a minute about fashion? Is anybody objecting to that? So 65% of communication is visual, and do you want to know something? I just last week went online to try to see if this statistic is still true after all this time, and it keeps coming up, 65%. Looking the part you play is so important, and you guys are in a fashionable business. You're selling beautiful items, and all this work we've talked about do the inside, interior work, what if it's reflected on the outside in the clothes that you wear? I mean, if you're looking in your closet and you're opening it up and you're saying to yourself, I got nothing to wear in here, it's time to go shopping, okay? Because you're probably dressing for somebody else and not yourself. So putting on your body something that tells the world who you are, that speaks volumes about who you are, that's going to be very powerful. So let me tell you a story how I won one of the biggest pieces of business of my life based on what I wore. So I got into the elevator in Los Angeles, and I was going up to my client's office, and standing next to me was a man who was looking me up and down and up and down. It was really creepy, actually. But he was looking me up and down. As I got out of the elevator and I walked into the lobby and sat down, he followed me and he sat down across from me. And he said, you know, by the way that you're dressed, I can tell you're creative. Now, that was exactly the reaction I wanted. But I thought, by the way he was checking me out, that maybe I'd gone too far. Do you want to know what I had on that day? I had on a brown riding jacket, like you'd wear it in an equestrian championship. I had on jodhpurs. I had on boots, and I had on a white button-down shirt, and I was wearing a man's tie with a cowboy busting a bronco. That was my look for the day. That's what I had on to be edgy and creative. By the way, I was not living in Santa Fe wearing that outfit. I know, I felt like a cowgirl that day. So that's what I wore, and guess what? I said to him, he asked me, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm a brand strategist and fearless storyteller. Why not? And then he said, well, I'm the head of AOL's greenhouse, they called it back then, our research and development division, and we happen to be looking for a brand strategist who can, help us create these new websites. And so that day I won 3 major pieces of business by wearing my creativity on my sleeve. Not bad. So it does matter what you wear. And then think about when you put on those clothes, you're going to need 3 things probably. Get into action. Have belief that you can pull it off, and the courage to show up inside and outside in your highest self. Finally, and it's time for me to wrap up, so I'm going to give you my 5th and final step, and probably the most important. If all the things I've just talked about how to live fearlessly, is making you really scared, then this last step on how to quiet your inner judge is right on time. When you're at the end of your rope, let go. There's no sense in trying to control or predict the future. It's all about letting go. That's what I think real fearlessness is. And to do that, I talked about hiking with my gals, but getting out and exercising, when we take our body and we get in health with it, then the mind goes right with it. And to find perspective. When I was really, really at the end of my rope 2 years ago and I was coming home from a business trip, I felt sad. And I actually was in the Dallas airport, and I turned to the woman behind me in line at the barbecue stand, and spontaneously I said to her, I don't know if I want to go home. And she said to me neither. And I said, why? And she said, because 6 weeks ago, my son was run over by a car, and he's now a paraplegic. And when I held her in my arms and we hugged each other, I knew that my problems were very small. And that's why when you really want to let go, you get into gratitude. And my sister and I play a game. We call each other when we're feeling a little sad, and I say, sis, what are you grateful for in this moment? What are you thankful for in this moment? And what are you satisfied with in this moment? And we tell each other, and then the clouds just seem to clear away. It's a great exercise to do with the people you love. So have courage. Do you guys remember in The Wizard of Oz when the lion said, I don't have any courage. I even scare myself. Well, when you're having those cowardly lion moments, do something that Christine Closer taught me to do, an amazing coach. She said, take all those trash talk, that trash talk that's running inside your head, that judge that's just saying you're not enough, and write it all down. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not making enough sales. Get it all down on paper. Then take a breath. Access your highest self and write down all the beautiful things about you. I'm a risk taker. I'm strong. Anything that makes you feel good, all those words. I am sparkle. You can take mine. Then take that piece of paper with all the trash on it, wad it up or rip it up, flush it down, set it on fire, not your house, but just that, and let it go. Because when we bring that trash talk into our bodies and we don't release it, we attract negative situations that become a mirror to our inner feelings. So that's why I'm asking you to let it all go and release it. And finally, I know that you're the last person on your nurturing list. I know that, guys. I know that you're putting everyone and everything first. But in this moment tonight, I want you to put yourself first. So will you do something for yourself and stand up if you want to own your truth and tell your greatest story? Stand up if you're ready to be the real you. Stand up if you're ready to take off that mask. Stand up if you're ready to evolve. Stand up if you're ready to own what's different about you. Give yourself a round of applause. You're beautiful. Yay. Beautiful. Thank you.